The 3 lion cubs should have been dead. In the pre-dawn cold of a Namibian wildlife sanctuary, they lie motionless in a blood-stained transport crate, golden fur matted, tiny ribs barely moving beneath skin still wrinkled from their mother's womb. They are less than 6 hours old. Their mother, killed by territorial males in the wild, never got the chance to clean them, never gave them that first essential colostrum that would protect their fragile immune systems. Around them, the silence is absolute. No mother's rumbling purr. No warmth except what radiates from each other's failing bodies. And then, from across the compound, comes a sound no one expected, the whimpering, insistent cry of a dog who has just lost her own puppies. What happens next will defy every instinct, every natural law, every expectation, and create a bond so powerful that 4 years later, it will save a human life in the most extraordinary way imaginable. Dr. Zara has been running the Okavango Wildlife Sanctuary for 11 years, and she has never lied to herself about the odds. Not when she cradles dying animals in her arms at 3 a.m. Not when she watches months of rehabilitation crumble in an instant. Not when she makes the call to let an animal go rather than let it suffer. But this morning, standing in the medical bay with 3 premature lion cubs growing colder by the minute, she finds herself wanting to believe in miracles. Body temps are 94, 93, and 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Her assistant, James, calls out, his voice tight with controlled panic. Normal for newborn lion cubs is 100. At this temperature, their organs are already beginning to shut down. Zara, we need to decide. Now, the cubs arrived 2 hours ago, brought by anti-poaching rangers who'd found the massacre just after dawn. A pride's breeding female, killed in a territorial dispute so vicious that the pregnant lioness never stood a chance. The rangers had heard tiny mules coming from the grass beside her body. Somehow, in her dying moments, she had given birth. Somehow, the cubs had survived those first critical minutes. But survival and living are not the same thing. Zara kneels beside the warming box, her hands steady despite the crushing weight in her chest. She's hand-raised orphan predators before, leopards, cheetahs, even a young lioness. But never newborns this premature, never cubs this compromised. They need constant warmth, feeding every 90 minutes, stimulation to urinate and defecate, and most critically, they need colostrum, that first antibody-rich milk that forms the foundation of their immune systems. She has formula. She has heat lamps. She has 2 decades of veterinary experience. What she doesn't have is a mother. The golden one just stopped breathing, James says, his voice cracking. He's already performing tiny chest compressions with 2 fingers, his dark skin glistening with sweat despite the cool morning air. Zara moves on instinct, her hands finding the cub's small body, feeling for the thread of a heartbeat. There, faint, irregular, but there. She administers a microdose of respiratory stimulant, then gently rubs the cub's chest in firm, circular motions. "Come on," she whispers. "Come on, little one. Fight." 10 seconds pass. 20. The sanctuary's resident hornbills call to each other in the acacia trees outside, oblivious to the battle being waged inside. Then, a gasp, a shuddering inhale. The cub's tiny ribcage expands, contracts, expands again. "We've got her," Zara breathes. But even as relief floods through her, she knows this is just the first of 1,000 crises these cubs will face in the coming hours. Without colostrum, their chances of surviving the first week hover around 20%. Without a mother's warmth and constant care, that number drops even further. James meets her eyes. "What do we do?" Before Zara can answer, a sound cuts through the morning air, a high-pitched, desperate whining that makes them both freeze. It's coming from the quarantine kennels. Zara's eyes widen. "Bella." She's moving before the thought fully forms, leaving James with the cubs as she strides across the compound toward the medical kennels. The whining grows louder, more insistent, and beneath it Zara can hear scratching, frantic, determined, scratching against chain link. Bella, a 4-year-old Anatolian Shepherd, presses her massive body against the kennel door, her amber eyes fixed on Zara with an intensity that borders on desperate. Her teats are still swollen, still leaking milk. 3 days ago, she gave birth to 7 puppies. 2 days ago, a puff adder, one of Africa's deadliest snakes, had slipped into the kennel through a gap in the wire mesh. By the time Zara found them, all 7 puppies were dead, their small bodies already cold. They'd sedated Bella through the worst of her grief, but now, fully conscious, the dog is frantic. Her maternal instincts are firing on all cylinders, her body flooded with hormones that scream at her to nurture, to protect, to care for babies that are no longer there. Bella, girl, Zara murmurs, approaching slowly. I know. I'm so sorry. The dog whines again, then does something unexpected. She stops scratching, stops whining. Instead, she sits, perfectly still, and stares at Zara with an expression so human, so pleading, that Zara feels her breath catch. And in that moment, an impossible idea takes root. It's insane. Cross-species fostering is rare enough between similar animals. Dogs nursing kittens, cats nursing squirrels. But a domestic dog nursing lion cubs? Predator cubs that will grow to be apex carnivores, that carry instincts bred over millennia to hunt, to kill, to dominate? Every textbook would say it's impossible. Every rational part of Zara's brain screams that this is a disaster waiting to happen. But she's also watched Bella work as a livestock guardian dog for years. She's seen this shepherd face down hyenas, stand her ground against jackals, protect vulnerable animals with a ferocity that rivals any predator. Anatolian Shepherds are unique, bred for thousands of years to bond with and protect other species. Their maternal instinct doesn't distinguish between puppy and lamb, between their own offspring and the animals they guard. And right now, 3 lion cubs are dying because they don't have a mother. Right now, Bella is grieving because she has no babies to care for. Zara pulls out her radio. James, bring the cubs to kennel 3. Slowly. And bring the video camera. Zara, what are you? Just trust me. We're out of options anyway. 5 minutes later, James arrives with the transport crate, his expression hovering between hope and skepticism. Inside, the 3 cubs huddle together, their tiny faces still smudged with amniotic fluid, their eyes sealed shut in that particular blindness of newborns. Zara opens Bella's kennel door. The shepherd surges forward, not aggressively, but with purpose. She goes directly to the crate, her nose working overtime, taking in the scent of blood, birth fluids, and something wild and feline that should trigger every alarm in her canine brain. Instead, Bella whines. It's a sound Zara has heard before, in the hours after Bella's puppies were born. A soft, questioning noise that means, are these mine? Can I care for these? Let her approach, Zara tells James, her hand on the crate's latch. If she shows any aggression, any at all, we pull back immediately. James nods, his finger on the camera's record button. This moment needs to be documented. If it works, it's scientific history. If it doesn't, well, they need to know what went wrong. Zara opens the crate. Bella doesn't lunge, doesn't snap. Instead, she lowers her head with incredible gentleness and begins to lick the nearest cub, the golden female who stopped breathing earlier. Her tongue is rough but careful, cleaning the matted fur in long, deliberate strokes. The cub stirs, makes a small mewling sound, and instinctively, blindly, begins to root toward the source of warmth and sensation. Bella lies down, rolling slightly to expose her milk-swollen teats. The cub, guided by millions of years of instinct, latches on and begins to nurse. Zara and James stand frozen, barely breathing. Seconds tick by. The other 2 cubs, sensing movement and warmth, begin to crawl toward Bella's body. The shepherd's tail thumps once against the kennel floor, a sound of pure contentment. Then she curves her body around all three cubs, her head lowering to rest near them, and begins to clean the second cub with the same gentle thoroughness. Within 2 minutes, all three cubs are nursing. "My God," James whispers. "She's accepted them." Zara wipes at her eyes, not bothering to hide the tears. In 11 years of running this sanctuary, she's witnessed countless acts of resilience, adaptation, and survival. But this defies everything. A dog is mothering lion cubs. And if this works, if Bella can provide them with the warmth, the milk, the constant care they need to survive these first critical weeks, then maybe, just maybe, they have a chance. What Zara doesn't know, as she watches this unprecedented bond form in the dusty morning light of an African wildlife sanctuary, is that this is only the beginning. That 4 years from now, when the cubs have grown into 400-pound predators with jaws that can crush bone, they will recognize a debt that they will remember, and that the unthinkable act of compassion she's witnessing right now will be repaid in the most extraordinary way imaginable. But for now, in this moment, there is only the soft sound of nursing cubs, the gentle rasp of a dog's tongue against golden fur, and the first fragile stirrings of hope. The first 48 hours are a blur of constant vigilance. Zara moves a cot into the medical kennel, leaving only for brief showers and emergency calls. James takes the day shifts, monitoring the cubs' vital signs every hour, weighing them on a digital scale sensitive enough to register gains measured in grams. Each feeding becomes a small victory. Each time all three cubs nurse successfully, it feels like they've stolen another few hours from the jaws of statistical probability. The cubs, still blind and deaf, exist in a world defined entirely by touch, smell, and warmth. They crawl over each other in their sleep, tiny paws kneading against Bella's stomach in that ancient, instinctive motion that stimulates milk flow. They pile together in a heap of golden fur and oversized paws, their small bodies rising and falling in synchronized breaths. And Bella transforms. The grief that had haunted her eyes for 2 days evaporates, replaced by fierce, unwavering purpose. She licks the cubs clean after every feeding, stimulating them to eliminate. She shifts her position every few hours to prevent any single cub from being crushed or pushed out. When one of them mewls in distress, she responds immediately, nosing the cub back toward her warmth. She has become, in every way that matters, their mother. The larger male gained 85 grams overnight, James reports on the third morning, excitement brightening his voice. The female gained 60, and the smaller male gained 55. Zara, these are good numbers. Really good numbers. Zara allows herself a moment of cautious optimism as she watches the cubs nurse. The golden female, the one who stopped breathing that first morning, seems the most vigorous now, pushing her brothers aside to claim the best feeding position. The larger male is placid, content to wait his turn. The smaller male, marked by a distinctive pale patch on his shoulder, is the most vocal, mewling insistently whenever he can't immediately find a teat. They need names, Zara says. She's always been careful about naming animals, knowing that names create bonds and bonds make the inevitable losses more painful. But these three have already claimed a piece of her heart. The female's a fighter, James says, grinning. What about Zara? It means princess in Hebrew, but it also means blooming flower in Arabic. Zara, Zara repeats, watching the cub nurse with determined ferocity. Perfect. And the big guy? She gestures to the larger male, who's currently sprawled on his back, milk-drunk and content. Tau means lion in Setswana. Simple, strong, and the little one. The smaller male has finally found a teat and is nursing with his whole body involved, tiny paws pushing against Bella's stomach. Kgosi means king, because something tells me he's going to have the biggest personality. Zara laughs, the sound surprising her with its lightness. Zara, Tau, and Kgosi. raised by a dog named Bella. We're either writing a fairy tale or a disaster story. Let's go with fairy tale, James says. But even fairy tales have their challenges. On day 5, Kgosi develops diarrhea, a potentially fatal condition in newborn cubs. Zara spends 36 hours straight administering subcutaneous fluids, probiotics, and a specialized electrolyte solution, while Bella refuses to leave the cub's side. The shepherd licks Kgosi's stomach in gentle circles, an instinctive act that somehow seems to soothe the cub's cramping. On day 8, Zara's temperature spikes to 104 degrees. Infection, Zara thinks, her stomach dropping. Without colostrum's antibodies, the cub's immune systems are compromised. A simple bacterial infection could kill any of them. She starts Zara on broad-spectrum antibiotics, bathing the cub in lukewarm water to bring down the fever while Bella watches with anxious eyes. But the cubs fight. With Bella's constant care and Zara's medical interventions, they fight. By day 12, all 3 cubs' eyes are beginning to open. First just slits of cloudy blue, then gradually widening to reveal the bright, curious gaze of healthy predators. It's the first time they see their mother's face, and the face they imprint on is Bella's. Zara watches, transfixed, as Zara, eyes fully open now, stares up at the massive dog with an expression of pure adoration. The cub reaches up with one oversized paw and bats playfully at Bella's nose. The shepherd responds by gently nuzzling the cub, her tail wagging. This is going to complicate things, James murmurs beside her. He's right. The cubs are imprinting on a dog as their mother. When they grow larger, when their predatory instincts fully emerge, will they still recognize Bella as family? Or will instinct override this unprecedented bond? But those concerns are for the future. Right now, Zara focuses on the present. 3 lion cubs who are gaining weight, growing stronger, and learning what it means to be loved. By week 3, the cubs are mobile, tumbling over each other in clumsy play fights, stalking Bella's swishing tail with exaggerated stealth, pouncing on shadows with more enthusiasm than skill. Their teeth are coming in, tiny needles that occasionally make Bella yelp when a cub gets too enthusiastic while nursing. But she never snaps at them, never corrects them harshly. Instead, she teaches them the same way she would teach puppies, with gentle discipline, with patience, with unwavering presence. When Tao gets too rough during play, Bella places her massive paw on his chest, pinning him gently until he settles. When Kgosi wanders too far from the group, she herds him back with her nose. When Zara gets overtired and cranky, Bella simply lies down and lets the cub nestle into her fur until sleep comes. She is teaching them not just to survive, but how to be, how to exist in a body that's powerful but must learn restraint, how to play without causing harm, how to be part of a family. And the cubs, in turn, are teaching Bella something too, that love doesn't require similarity, that family can be forged in the most unlikely circumstances, that sometimes the greatest gift we can give is to care for something completely different from ourselves. Zara documents everything. She takes notes, shoots video, records weights and behaviors. Part of this is scientific necessity. This situation is so unique that the data could inform wildlife rehabilitation practices for decades. But part of it is something more personal. She wants to remember this, wants proof that what she's witnessing is real. Because watching a dog mother lion cubs feels like witnessing a miracle in slow motion. By week 6, the cubs are starting to eat solid food, minced meat mixed with formula, introduced gradually while they still nurse. Bella watches this development with what can only be described as maternal pride, her tail wagging as the cubs messily devour their first real meal. By week 8, they're spending part of each day in a larger outdoor enclosure, still supervised, still carefully monitored, but beginning to experience grass beneath their paws, sunshine on their fur, the complex scents of the African bush. And Bella goes with them, always. She patrols the perimeter of the enclosure, positions herself between the cubs and any perceived threat, and returns to them constantly to check that they're safe, to clean their faces, to simply be present. The sanctuary staff begins to gather during these outdoor sessions, drawn by the extraordinary sight of 3 lion cubs playing with a dog. They watch Tao attempt to wrestle Bella, who tolerates his clumsy attacks with patient amusement. They laugh as Kgosi stalks a butterfly with intense concentration, while Bella watches like a proud parent at a school recital. They photograph Zara curled up asleep on Bella's back, the size difference between them shrinking week by week. They're getting big, James observes one afternoon, watching Tao, now the size of a large house cat, try to climb a small acacia tree. Sarah, we need to start thinking about. I know, she interrupts, because she does know. She's known since the first day that this arrangement has an expiration date. Eventually, the cubs will be too large, too strong, too instinctively predatory to remain with Bella safely. Eventually, they'll need to transition to an environment better suited to adult lions, either a larger sanctuary section with other lions, or eventual release into a protected reserve if they prove capable of survival. Eventually, this family will have to be separated. But not yet. Not while the cubs still need Bella. Not while this bond continues to serve them all. Let's give them another month, Sarah decides. 1 more month of this, and then we'll start the transition process. James nods, but his expression is troubled. Do you think they'll understand? When we separate them? Sarah watches Bella lie down so the cubs can pile on top of her, a furry heap of contentment in the dappled shade. I don't know, she admits. But I do know that what Bella has given them, what they've given each other, that doesn't just disappear. Bonds like this, they last. She has no idea how prophetic those words will prove to be. Because as the weeks pass and the cubs grow larger, as their features sharpen into the regal profiles of adolescent lions, as their play becomes more intense and their roars, still squeaky, but increasingly powerful, begin to echo across the sanctuary, something remarkable is happening. The cubs aren't forgetting Bella is a dog. They're choosing not to care. When Tao reaches 80 pounds at 4 months old, he could easily hurt Bella during play. But he doesn't. He moderates his strength, pulling his paw strikes, controlling his bites. When Zara's hunting instincts kick in, and she begins stalking birds and small mammals, she never once treats Bella as prey. Kgosi, the most vocal and demanding of the 3, throws full-body tantrums when he wants attention. But the moment Bella approaches, he gentles, rubbing his massive head against her shoulder with careful affection. They know she's different. They know she's not a lion. And they love her anyway. This shouldn't work, Sarah tells James one evening, watching Bella groom Kghosi's face while the 90-pound lion cub purrs like thunder. According to everything we know about animal behavior, about imprinting, about predator development, this shouldn't work. Maybe, James says, we don't know everything. At 5 months old, the cubs are moved to a larger enclosure, a full acre of natural habitat with trees, rocks, a water feature, and multiple dens. It's designed for subadult lions, meant to provide space and enrichment while still maintaining security and human oversight. The separation from Bella is gradual. First, she joins them in the new enclosure for full days, returning to her kennel only at night. Then she's with them for half days. Then just mornings. Each reduction is carefully monitored for signs of distress in either the cubs or Bella. There are difficult moments. Kgosi paces the fence line, calling for Bella with increasingly desperate vocalizations. Zara stops eating for 2 days, her eyes scanning the enclosure constantly, as if waiting for her mother to appear. Even Tao, usually so placid, becomes agitated and restless. And Bella whines at the gates, scratches at the chain link, refuses food for 24 hours. But Sarah holds firm, knowing that this transition, while painful, is necessary. The cubs are approaching the size and strength where even accidental harm becomes possible. And Bella, still physically recovering from her pregnancy and loss, needs rest that's impossible to get while caring for three increasingly rambunctious lions. Slowly, painfully, the adjustment happens. The cubs bond with each other, their sibling relationships deepening. They explore their new territory, establishing favorite resting spots and play areas. They eat full meals of raw meat, their bodies transforming from round cub softness to the lean muscle of adolescent predators. And 3 times a week, Bella visits. Those visits become sacred rituals. The moment the cubs hear the gates opening, they race across the enclosure, nearly bowling over Zara or James in their eagerness to reach Bella. The shepherd meets them with equal enthusiasm, her tail wagging so hard her entire body vibrates. Then they spend hours together, the cubs draping themselves over Bella, grooming her with their rough tongues, playing with a gentleness that seems impossible for animals their size. Bella checks them over like a mother at a school pickup, nosing each cub thoroughly, licking their faces, rumbling with contentment. These visits sustain all of them through the separation, and they prove something Zara had hoped but couldn't guarantee. The bond isn't fading. Distance isn't diminishing what they mean to each other. If anything, the relationship is evolving into something even more profound. By their first birthday, Zara, Tao, and Kgosi are no longer cubs. Tao weighs 320 pounds, his mane just beginning to darken around his massive neck. Kgosi, true to his smaller start, tops out at 280 pounds, but what he lacks in size he compensates for in personality. Bold, demanding, the first to investigate anything new. Zara, sleek and powerful at 290 pounds, has become the de facto leader of the trio, her intelligence and strategic thinking evident in everything from hunting enrichment exercises to social dynamics. They are magnificent, they are dangerous, and they still adore Bella. The shepherd, now 5 years old, has aged in the way working dogs do. A few more gray hairs around her muzzle, a slight stiffness in her gait on cold mornings, but still strong, still vigilant, still utterly devoted to the 3 lions she raised from dying newborns. Their visits have become the highlight of sanctuary operations. Staff members time their breaks to watch these sessions, phones out to capture footage that borders on unbelievable. A 320-pound lion rubbing his face against a dog's shoulder with rumbling purrs. A sleek lioness grooming a shepherd's ears with painstaking gentleness. A male lion lying on his back, while a dog steps carefully over his exposed belly. A gesture of absolute trust. "We should write this up," James tells Zara one afternoon, watching Kgosi play bow to Bella like an overgrown puppy. Journal of Wildlife Rehabilitation, maybe Animal Cognition. This is unprecedented data on cross-species social bonding and maternal imprinting persistence beyond sexual maturity. Zara nods absently, but her attention is on Zara, who sits apart from the play session, her golden eyes fixed on something beyond the fence line. The lioness has been restless lately, pacing more, her vocalizations taking on the deeper, more resonant quality of a mature female calling for, what? A mate? A territory of her own? Freedom? "We need to think about their future," Zara says quietly. "They're adults now. This enclosure was never meant to be permanent." The sanctuary's board has been pressuring her for months to make a decision. The 3 lions are taking up space and resources that could be used for other rescues. There are 2 options: transfer them to a larger facility with an established pride, or attempt a soft release into the Morimi Game Reserve, where a section has been cleared of competing prides and where the lions could potentially establish themselves. Both options terrify Zara for different reasons. Transfer means losing them forever, shipping them hundreds of miles away to live with strangers, to forget the sanctuary, to forget Bella. But soft release is even riskier. These lions were raised by a dog. They've never lived in a wild pride structure, never learned to hunt from experienced adults, never navigated the complex social hierarchies that govern lion society. The chances of them surviving independently hover around 40%. And then there's Bella. How do you explain to a dog that her children are leaving permanently? Let's give it another 3 months, Sarah decides, knowing she's delaying the inevitable. Continue the enrichment protocols, see if we can. Her radio crackles to life, James's voice cutting through, high and urgent. Sarah, we have a situation at the north fence. Get here now. And bring the tranq rifle. Sarah's blood turns to ice. She's moving before conscious thought, grabbing the rifle from the medical bay's locked cabinet, loading a dart as she runs. James wouldn't call for the tranquilizer unless there was an immediate threat, an animal escape, an aggressive encounter, or... She rounds the corner of the compound and stops dead. 3 male lions, massive, wild, and unmistakably aggressive, pace outside the sanctuary's northern perimeter fence. Their manes are full and dark, their bodies scarred from territorial battles. And they're fixated on the enclosure where Zara, Tao, and Kgosi live. Specifically, they're fixated on Zara. The lions know Bella is fragile compared to them, and they've spent their entire lives learning to be careful with her. One supervised visit, Sarah decides. Bella on a lead, James and I both present, tranq rifles loaded. At the first sign of anything concerning, we end it. But she knows, even as she says it, that this isn't going to be a one-time thing. The bond between this dog and these lions isn't something she can manage or control. It exists independent of human intervention, powerful and undeniable. The reunion happens on a golden afternoon when the temperature has dropped to something almost comfortable. Sarah opens the keeper gate, and Bella, leash attached but straining forward, pulls her toward the 3 lions who wait in a tense, trembling line. The moment Bella enters the enclosure, all 3 lions rush forward. For a heartbeat, Sarah's hand tightens on the tranq rifle. Then Tao drops to his belly, crawling toward Bella with his ears back in submission. Kgosi lies down completely, rolling to expose his throat and belly, the ultimate gesture of trust and submission in lion social behavior. And Zara approaches with her head low, making soft chuffing sounds, her entire body expressing relief and joy. Bella limps forward, her legs still bandaged, and begins the ritual Sarah has seen dozens of times. The thorough inspection, the face licking, the gentle nips of discipline and affection. The lions submit to all of it. 3 apex predators reduced to overgrown cubs in their mother's presence. Then they simply lie together in the afternoon sun, a dog surrounded by lions, family reunited. Sarah lowers the rifle, tears streaming down her face. We can't separate them, James says quietly. I don't care what the board says. We can't. No, Sarah agrees. We can't. But she also knows they can't keep them like this forever. The sanctuary isn't designed for permanent lion residence. And Bella is getting older. Every year that passes makes the size and strength differential more dangerous. They need a solution. A way forward that honors this bond while keeping everyone safe. The answer comes from an unexpected source 2 weeks later, when a delegation from the Morimi Game Reserve arrives for a scheduled inspection. Among them is Dr. Themba Dlamini, a wildlife biologist who specializes in lion reintroduction programs. Sarah gives them the standard tour, shows them the facilities, the rescue protocols, the success rates. She doesn't mention the dog and the lions. It's too complicated, too unorthodox, too likely to invite criticism or interference. But Dr. Dlamini notices the 3 lions in their enclosure. Notices how they're calmer than most captive big cats, how they respond to human voices without aggression, how they move with confidence, but not the neurotic pacing of stressed predators. Those 3, he says, pointing. Tell me about them. Sarah hesitates, then decides honesty is the only option. She tells him everything. The dying newborn cubs, the grieving dog, the unprecedented fostering, the bond that persists into adulthood. She expects skepticism, disbelief, professional condescension. Instead, Dr. Dlamini smiles. Can I meet them? 20 minutes later, he's in the enclosure with Bella, watching as the lions interact with their canine mother. He takes notes, asks questions, observes with the careful attention of a scientist watching something that shouldn't exist, but undeniably does. This is extraordinary, he finally says. Not just the bond itself, but what it suggests about their socialization. These lions have learned interspecies cooperation, impulse control, and social flexibility that most captive-raised lions never develop. Do you know what that means? Zara shakes her head. It means they might actually succeed at soft release. Most hand-raised lions fail because they lack proper social skills. They're either too aggressive or too submissive, unable to read other lions' signals, unable to form stable pride bonds. But your three? They've learned something even more sophisticated. How to exist in a mixed social group, how to moderate their strength, how to cooperate with a completely different species. Those skills translate. Hope flickers in Zara's chest, cautious and fragile. You think they could survive in the wild? With proper support and monitoring? Yes. The Moremi Reserve has a section, about 800 square kilometers, that's been cleared of competing prides. We could soft release them there, with regular monitoring, supplemental feeding if needed during the transition, and veterinary support. If they establish a territory, if they learn to hunt successfully, they could potentially live wild while remaining accessible for check-ins. And Bella? Zara asks. Because that's the real question. Dr. Dlamini is quiet for a long moment, watching Kgosi sprawl across Bella's back while the patient dog simply lies there, tail wagging. We've never attempted anything like this, he admits. But if you're asking whether we could incorporate regular visits from the dog into the monitoring protocol, I'm willing to try. Once a month, maybe. Enough to maintain the bond without creating dependence. It's not perfect. It's full of unknowns and risks. But it's a path forward. It's hope. The soft release is scheduled for early June, during Botswana's dry season when hunting is easier and temperatures are manageable. The preparation takes 3 months. The lions undergo intensive training, learning to associate certain sounds with food drops, practicing hunting techniques with live prey in controlled scenarios, building stamina through expanded territory exercises. Bella continues her regular visits, but they're gradually reduced to weekly, then bi-weekly, preparing all of them for the separation to come. Zara documents everything, filling notebooks with observations, concerns, small victories. She's terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. This could work. This could be disaster. But doing nothing, keeping 3 adult lions in captivity indefinitely, isn't an option either. The transport happens at dawn on a Tuesday. 3 massive crates, each containing a sedated lion, loaded onto a specialized vehicle. Bella rides in the cab with Zara and James, whining anxiously the entire 6-hour journey to Moremi. The release site is pristine, a river valley surrounded by mopane woodland, with rocky outcrops for denning and wide grasslands for hunting. Dr. Dlamini and his team have been preparing for weeks, establishing a base camp, setting up camera traps, mapping water sources and prey movements. The crates are positioned near a natural den site, then opened remotely. Zara watches from 100 meters away, binoculars pressed to her eyes, as the lions emerge groggily from sedation. Tao is first, stumbling slightly before his massive head lifts, nostrils flaring as he takes in the scent of true wilderness. Then Kgosi, who immediately begins exploring, his smaller frame moving with characteristic boldness. Finally Zara, who sits and surveys her new territory with the calculating gaze of a strategist. They don't panic, don't flee. Instead, after a few minutes of exploration, all 3 converge at the den site, disappearing into the shadowed entrance. That's good, Dr. Dlamini says. They're establishing a home base. Now we wait. The wait is excruciating. For 3 days, the lions barely emerge from the den. Camera traps show them sleeping, grooming each other, occasionally venturing to a nearby water source. They're not hunting, not exploring, just waiting. They're grieving, Zara realizes on day 4. They're looking for Bella. That's when she makes a decision that's either brilliant or reckless. She radios Dr. Dlamini. I'm bringing Bella in. Just for a few hours. They need to know she hasn't abandoned them. It violates every protocol. It could undermine the entire release. But Zara does it anyway. When Bella approaches the den site, on a lead, with Zara and armed guards, the effect is immediate. All 3 lions emerge, their vocalizations shifting from the lost, questioning calls they've been making to joyful chuffing. They mob the dog with careful enthusiasm, and for an hour, they simply exist together in the wild place that's now the lion's home. Then Zara does something she's been practicing for weeks. She gives Bella a command in Setswana, Samaya, go. Bella hesitates, looking between Zara and the lions. Samaya, Zara repeats, more firmly. You'll see them again. I promise. But they need to do this. The shepherd whines once, then obeys, walking back toward the vehicle with several backward glances. The lions don't follow. They watch her go, their expressions impossible to read. But the next day, camera traps show them hunting. Clumsily, unsuccessfully, but hunting, learning, engaging with their new world. Over the following weeks, the pattern establishes itself. The lions gradually adapt to wild living. Their hunting success rate climbs from 10% to 30% to 45%. They establish a territory, marking boundaries, defending water sources. They encounter other wildlife and respond appropriately, avoiding elephant herds, respecting buffalo, testing themselves against younger, smaller prey. True to Dr. Dlamini's word, Bella visits once a month. These visits become anchoring points for all of them, reminders of where they came from, reassurance that the bond persists despite distance. By month 4, Dr. Dlamini declares the soft release a success. They're functioning as a wild pride, he tells Zara, showing her footage of a successful warthog hunt. Not perfectly. They still have some learned behaviors that are atypical, but they're surviving. They're even thriving. Zara should feel triumphant. This is everything she hoped for. But there's a melancholy underneath, the knowledge that her daily involvement in these lions' lives is over. They belong to the wild now. Then, on a November afternoon during the 6th monthly visit, everything changes. Zara and Bella arrive at the monitoring camp to find Dr. Dlamini's team in crisis mode. We've got a situation, Themba says grimly. Poachers, 3 men, heavily armed, spotted near the northern boundary. They're tracking the lions. Zara's blood runs cold. Why? Lions aren't trophy hunters, Themba interrupts. Illegal, but lucrative. A mature male lion can fetch $50,000 on the black market. Your Tao and Kgosi, with their impressive size and those developing manies, they're targets. Anti-poaching rangers are already en route, but they're at least 2 hours out. The poachers are much closer, maybe 30 minutes from where the lions were last spotted. We need to warn them, Zara says. Get them to move away from. We can't, Themba says. If we approach, we might drive them straight toward the poachers. Lions are curious. They investigate disturbances. We could be leading them into an ambush. The radio crackles. One of the field monitors, stationed at a distant observation post, comes through with static-laced urgency. I have visual on the poachers. They're setting up near the rocky outcrop, main den site. They've got rifles with scopes. They're waiting. Zara's mind races. The den site is where the lions retreat during the hottest part of the day. If the poachers are there, waiting, Bella whines, straining at her lead. She can sense Zara's distress, the tension crackling through the camp. And then Zara has an idea that's either genius or suicide. Bella knows their scent, she says rapidly. If I take her in from the downwind side, she can locate the lions and lead them away. The poachers won't shoot a dog. She's not valuable. And the lions will follow her. Absolutely not, Themba says immediately. It's too dangerous. If the poachers see you, they won't. I know this terrain. I've been hiking it monthly for 6 months. And I'm not asking permission. Zara is already moving, clipping a tracking beacon to Bella's collar, filling a pack with water and emergency supplies. Just tell the rangers where we are? And Themba? If something happens to us, don't let them get the lions. She's gone before he can stop her, Bella matching her pace as they move into the bush. The approach takes 20 minutes of careful, silent movement. Zara uses every skill she learned during her years in the field, reading wind direction, avoiding dry branches, moving during moments when bird calls mask sound. Bella, trained as a livestock guardian, understands stealth instinctively. They circle wide, approaching from the south where the wind carries their scent away from the poachers but toward the lions' territory. Zara is banking on the lions detecting Bella's scent, recognizing it, coming to investigate. It's a desperate plan. A foolish plan. It works. Within 10 minutes, Zara emerges from the tall grass like a golden shadow. Her body language is wary. This isn't the usual visiting area, isn't the usual time. But the moment she sees Bella, her posture relaxes. She chuffs softly, moving closer. Tao and Kgosi appear seconds later, flanking their sister. All 3 lions converge on Bella, and Zara has to suppress a sob of relief. Good, she whispers. Okay, now we need to move. Come on, babies. Follow Bella. She starts walking rapidly away from the den site, from the poacher's position, toward the relative safety of the southern boundary where the rangers will arrive. Bella follows, and, after a moment's hesitation, so do the lions. They're moving through mixed woodland when Zara hears the sound that stops her heart, the mechanical click of a rifle safety being released. She spins. One of the poachers has somehow gotten ahead of them, cutting off their escape route. He's young, maybe 25, with hard eyes and a scarred face. His rifle is raised, pointed not at Zara but at Tao. Don't, Zara says, raising her hands. Please. They're protected. Their money. The poacher interrupts. His English is accented but clear. And you're a problem. Move aside. The lions have gone still. They sense danger, not from their usual prey, but from this human with the strange metal object that smells of oil and threat. Their ears flatten. Their tails twitch. If you shoot, they'll attack, Zara says, trying to keep her voice steady. All 3 of them. You'll get 1 shot, maybe 2. They'll tear you apart. Then I shoot you first, the poacher says. They'll be distracted. I'll have time. He's right. Zara knows he's right. And she knows, with absolute certainty, that she can't let this happen. These lions, these impossible, miraculous lions who were raised by a dog, who learned compassion and trust and love, they can't die here. Not like this. She steps between the poacher and the lions. You'll have to go through me. The poacher's finger tightens on the trigger, and Bella attacks. The shepherd launches herself at the poacher with the full fury of her protective instincts, her jaws closing on his arm, the arm holding the rifle. The weapon discharges, the shot going wide, the sound deafening in the enclosed woodland. The lions explode into motion, but not toward the poacher, toward Zara. Tao reaches her first, his massive body positioning itself between her and the threat. Kgosi circles to her other side, teeth bared, his smaller size making him no less terrifying. And Zara moves with the calculated precision of a huntress, placing herself in front of the entire group. They form a protective barrier around Zara and Bella, their message unmistakable: you will not harm our family. The poacher stumbles backward, blood streaming from his arm where Bella bit him. His rifle is on the ground. His eyes are wide with animal terror as he faces 3 adult lions who are not acting like lions should, fleeing from gunfire or attacking indiscriminately. These lions are protecting, defending, acting with purpose and intelligence that transforms them from animals into something that seems almost human in its intentionality. He runs. 2 minutes later, Rangers burst through the undergrowth, weapons drawn. They find Zara sitting on the ground, shaking with adrenaline crash, Bella pressed against her side. And they find 3 lions arranged in a protective formation around them, watching the surroundings with alert vigilance. They saved her, Thimba says later, after the Rangers have arrested all 3 poachers, after Zara has been checked for injuries, after the impossibility of what happened has been documented and witnessed. When they heard the gunshot, when they saw you in danger, they didn't run. They didn't attack. They protected you, just like Bella protected them. Zara looks at the 3 lions, who've remained close even as the chaos subsided. Tao lies with his massive head on her lap. Kgosi leans against her shoulder. Zara sits sentinel, still watching for threats. The debt is paid, Zara whispers. Bella saved them when they were dying. They saved me when I was in danger. The circle is complete. But even as she says it, she knows it's not really about debts or repayment. It's about something simpler and more profound. Family takes care of family, regardless of species, regardless of difference, regardless of what the natural order says should be impossible. The aftermath of the poacher incident brings unexpected complications and beautiful resolutions in equal measure. The story, once it breaks, goes viral. A dog who raised lion cubs. Lions who grew up to save a human life. Media outlets around the world want interviews, footage, access. Conservation organizations want to study the pride. Documentary filmmakers offer 6-figure sums for exclusive rights. Zara says no to almost everything. These lions have given enough. They don't need to become circus attractions, their extraordinary story exploited for entertainment. But she does agree to one thing. A partnership with the Moremi Reserve to establish a specialized soft release program based on what they've learned. If cross-species fostering can produce lions this well socialized, this capable of nuanced social behavior, it could revolutionize how orphan big cats are rehabilitated. We're not suggesting every orphan cub needs a dog mother, she explains to the Conservation Board during the proposal presentation. But what this has taught us is that social bonds, deep, consistent, caring social bonds, matter more than species-specific protocols. Love, for lack of a more scientific term, is a better foundation for rehabilitation than any amount of enrichment or training. The program is approved, funded, even, by donors inspired by Bella's story. The lions themselves settle into their wild existence with increasing confidence. By their 3rd year in Moremi, they're functioning as a fully independent pride. Camera traps show them taking down adult zebra, defending territory against intruding males, even, in a development that makes Zara cry, accepting a young nomadic female into their group, expanding their family. Bella's monthly visits continue, though they evolve as everyone ages. The shepherd is 7 now, moving more slowly, her face almost entirely gray. But the lions still greet her with the same joyful enthusiasm, still gentle themselves in her presence, still remember what she means to them. Zara notices, though, that the nature of their interaction is changing. The lions are increasingly protective of Bella rather than dependent on her. When the aging dog struggles over rough terrain, Tao positions himself as a windbreak. When she's tired, Zara lies down to create a resting spot sheltered by her larger body. Kgosi, ever the provider, once brought her a piece of his kill, fresh meat he'd hunted himself, offered to the mother who once nursed him. The roles are reversing. The children are caring for their parent. It's beautiful. It's heartbreaking. It's the natural progression of all families. During one visit in their 4th year together, Zara watches Bella play with the pride's newest member, a tiny lion cub born to Zara 3 months earlier. The shepherd is gentle with the baby, licking its fuzzy ears while Zara watches with relaxed trust. 3 generations of cross-species family, existing in defiance of every biological imperative. Do you think she understands? James asks, standing beside Zara. That she's a grandmother now? I think she knows that cub is family, Zara says. That's all that matters to her. But Bella's age is becoming undeniable. By her 8th birthday, she has arthritis in her hips, cloudiness developing in her eyes, the general slowing that comes to all dogs who've lived full, active lives. The monthly trips to Moremi are harder on her now. Sometimes she needs pain medication the day after. Sometimes she sleeps for 48 hours recovering from the journey. Zara makes the decision she's been avoiding. It's time to reduce the visits. Every other month, then quarterly. Not because the love has faded, but because the physical demands are too great. The lions seem to understand. During what Zara knows will be Bella's last visit to the reserve, the shepherd can barely walk now, her breathing labored. They treat her with extraordinary tenderness. No rough play, no exuberant mobbing. Instead, they lie around her in a protective circle, grooming her gently. Their rumbling purrs a constant vibration of love and gratitude. When it's time to leave, Zara walks with them back to the vehicle, something she's never done before. The lioness paces alongside Sarah's truck for nearly a kilometer before finally stopping, watching until they disappear from sight. She knows, James says quietly. She knows it's goodbye. 2 months later, on a cool morning in May, Bella dies peacefully in her sleep at the sanctuary. She's 9 years old, a good life for a working dog, especially one who spent years caring for creatures that shouldn't have been hers to love. Zara weeps as she wraps the shepherd's body in a soft blanket, as she makes arrangements for burial in the sanctuary's memorial garden where other beloved animals rest. But underneath the grief is something else, gratitude. This remarkable dog gave 3 dying cubs a chance at life. She taught them to trust, to love, to be part of a family that transcended species. She changed everything. The question is, how do you tell lions that their mother is gone? Zara discusses it with Dr. Dlamini. There's no protocol for this, no scientific literature on how to handle grief in cross-species relationships. But they decide the lions deserve to know, deserve closure. So on a June morning, Zara makes one final trip to Moremi. This time, she brings Bella's collar, worn leather that carries her scent. She brings photographs, and she brings her own grief, raw and heavy. The lions appear within minutes of her arrival at their territory. They approach eagerly, looking past Zara, searching for the familiar form of the shepherd. Zara kneels and holds out the collar. "I'm sorry," she tells them, her voice breaking. "She's gone. But she loved you. Until the very end, she loved you." What happens next will be debated by animal behaviorists for years. Zara takes the collar gently in her mouth, carries it to a flat rock in the shade, and lies beside it. Tao and Kgosi join her, the 3 of them arranged around this object that smells of their mother. They stay there for hours, not eating, not moving, just being present with their grief. The camera traps capture what happens over the following days. The lions carry the collar with them as they move through their territory. It becomes part of their den site, placed carefully in the center where Bella used to sleep during visits. Zara's cub, now 8 months old, plays near it while the adult lions watch. They're creating a memorial, honoring what Bella meant to them in the only way they know how. This changes everything we thought we knew about animal cognition, Dr. Dlamini tells Zara later, showing her the footage. Grief is one thing. Many animals grieve. But ritualized remembrance? Creating a physical memorial? This suggests a level of abstract thinking and emotional depth that he trails off, because words fail when faced with something this profound. Zara just nods, tears streaming down her face. Because she already knew. Anyone who watched a dog nurse lion cubs, who saw those cubs grow into adults who protected their foster mother, who witnessed the bonds that formed across impossible divides, they already knew. Love isn't limited by species. Family isn't defined by DNA. And sometimes, the most extraordinary miracles happen when we stop listening to what's supposed to be impossible and start paying attention to what's actually real. 3 years pass. Zara is 52 now, her hair streaked with gray, her face lined from decades of African sun and the weight of caring deeply. The sanctuary has expanded. The cross-species fostering program has successfully rehabilitated 12 more big cats, and her work has earned international recognition. But she still thinks about Bella every day, still visits the memorial garden where the shepherd is buried beneath an acacia tree, still marvels at the impossibility of what that one dog accomplished. The pride in Moremi has thrived. Zara has given birth to 2 more litters. Tao and Kgosi have successfully defended their territory against multiple challenges. The pride now numbers 9 lions, a stable, healthy family group that's become a cornerstone of the reserve's ecosystem. Dr. Dlamini still monitors them, but with decreasing frequency. They're fully wild now, truly independent. The soft release that everyone feared would fail has succeeded beyond anyone's wildest projections. Sarah's visits have become annual rather than monthly, a pilgrimage she makes each June, on the anniversary of Bella's death. She doesn't expect the lions to remember her anymore. 3 years is a long time in animal cognition. She's made peace with becoming a stranger to them, with being just another human observer in their wild world. But then, on this particular June morning, something extraordinary happens. Sarah arrives at the observation point with James, now the sanctuary's assistant director, and a graduate student named Kgosi who's studying the pride for her doctoral thesis. They settle into position with cameras and notebooks, prepared for a day of distant observation. Within minutes, Zara appears at the tree line. The lioness is in her prime, powerful, scarred from years of territorial battles and hunts, every inch the wild apex predator she was always meant to become. She's followed by her latest cubs, 3 5-month-olds tumbling over each other in play. Zara sees Sarah, stops, and something shifts in her posture. She's just curious, Kgosi whispers. They sometimes investigate humans at this distance. But Zara is moving closer, not hunting stalking, but walking with purpose. Her cubs follow uncertainly. Sarah, James says, his voice tight with concern. Maybe we should. Wait, Sarah breathes. Because she recognizes something in the lioness's gait, in the way she's holding her head. It's the walk Zara used to use as a cub when she was bringing Sarah a toy, seeking approval, wanting to show her something. The lioness stops 10 meters away. She chuffs, that soft greeting sound lions use with pride members, with family. And then she does something that makes Sarah's heart stop. Zara picks up one of her cubs, gently, carefully, the way Bella used to carry puppies. She walks forward, closing the distance to just 5 meters, and sets the cub down. It's an offering, an introduction. My God, James whispers. She's presenting her cub to you. Sarah kneels slowly, making herself smaller, less threatening. Tears blur her vision as she watches the cub, a female with golden fur and bright, curious eyes, toddle forward on oversized paws. Tao and Kgosi emerge from the bush behind their sister. They're massive now, their manes full and dark, their bodies scarred from the battles inherent in wild living. But when they see Sarah, they too chuff in greeting. They remember. After 3 years, across vast distances and the overwhelming sensory world of the African bush, they remember the human who brought them their dog mother. They remember what family means. The cub reaches Sarah and does what cubs do, investigates with her nose, bats at Sarah's boots with tiny paws, mews curiously. Zara watches with relaxed attention, allowing this interaction in a way she would never permit with a stranger. This is trust. This is the legacy of Bella's love, passed down to a new generation. May I? Sarah asks, looking at Zara. It's ridiculous, asking a wild lion for permission. But nothing about this situation follows normal rules. Zara lies down. An invitation. Sarah slowly, carefully, extends her hand. The cub sniffs it, then rubs her face against Sarah's fingers, scent marking, claiming this human as safe, as family. For 10 minutes that feel like seconds, Sarah sits in the presence of 3 wild lions and their cubs. predators who should want nothing to do with humans, who should see her as threat or irrelevance. But instead, they share space with her, relaxed and content, allowing their cubs to investigate, maintaining the bond that began 7 years ago with a dying dog and 3 newborn cubs who should never have survived. Eventually, Zara stands. It's time to go. The pride has hunting to do, territory to patrol, the endless work of survival that defines wild existence. She calls her cubs, and they respond, bounding back to her side. But before she leaves, Zara does one final thing. She approaches Zara directly, close enough that Zara can feel the heat radiating from her body, can smell the wild scent of her fur. The lioness lowers her massive head and, very gently, rubs it against Zara's shoulder. A head rub. In lion social behavior, it's an expression of affection, of bond strengthening, of family. Then she's gone, melting back into the bush with her brothers and her cubs, returning to the wild world that is now irrevocably theirs. Zara sits in the dust, shaking, crying, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what just happened. Kgosi is filming everything with trembling hands, capturing footage that will be played in wildlife biology classes for decades. James is beside Zara, his own face wet with tears. He can't find words. A gift, Zara finishes. One last gift, because that's what it was. Zara brought her cub to Zara, not because the lioness needed anything, not because she was seeking help or food or intervention. She brought her cub as a way of saying, look at what you helped create. This is your legacy too. That evening, back at the sanctuary, Zara sits in the memorial garden beside Bella's grave. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber that match lion fur exactly. A hornbill calls from the acacia tree above, and somewhere in the distance, she can hear the evening chorus of other sanctuary animals settling for the night. We did it, girl, Zara whispers, her hand resting on the sun-warmed stone marker. 3 tiny cubs who should have died. You gave them love, and they survived. They thrived. They're wild and free and healthy. And today Zara introduced me to her cubs. As family. The breeze picks up, rustling the acacia leaves in a sound like applause. Zara thinks about all the people who said it couldn't be done, who said cross-species fostering would fail, that lions raised by a dog would be too confused to survive, that the bond wouldn't last, that it was all just anthropomorphic wishful thinking. They were wrong. Love transcends species. Family isn't limited by biology. And sometimes, when we stop insisting on what's supposed to be possible and start believing in what we can actually see with our own eyes, miracles happen. 7 years ago, 3 newborn lion cubs lay dying in a transport crate. A grieving dog heard them and chose compassion over instinct. A veterinarian decided to believe in something impossible, and together, they created a bond that changed not just those individual lives, but expanded the boundaries of what we understand about emotion, cognition, and connection across species. The cubs grew into adults who protected the humans who'd helped them. They established a wild pride that's now a cornerstone of their ecosystem. They remembered, across years and distance, what love felt like. And today, they passed that legacy to a new generation. Zara stands, her hand lingering on Bella's grave marker for one more moment. Thank you, she says, for everything, for teaching all of us what's really possible when we choose compassion over fear, love over logic, connection over separation. The stars are beginning to emerge, brilliant in the African sky. Somewhere out there, in the vastness of Moremi, 3 lions sleep with their cubs, secure in their territory, successful in their wild lives. And somewhere, Zara chooses to believe, a spirit with golden eyes and a wagging tail watches over them still. The bond between Bella and her lion cubs reminds us that compassion knows no boundaries. Animals, whether wild or domestic, predator or prey, are capable of love, loyalty, and connections that defy our expectations. Wildlife sanctuaries around the world are working to give orphaned and injured animals a second chance at life. They need our support. If this story moved you, consider donating to organizations doing this critical work. Visit wildlife sanctuaries in your area. Support conservation efforts that protect wild spaces where animals like Zara, Tao, and Kgosi can thrive. Most importantly, remember Bella's lesson. That love is the most powerful force in nature. That family isn't defined by similarity, but by choice. That when we open our hearts to creatures different from ourselves, we don't just save their lives, we transform our own. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who need to be reminded that the world still has room for miracles. Because if a dog can raise lion cubs, if those cubs can grow to protect the humans who help them, if love can cross the supposed barriers between species, then anything is possible.